So what happens when a major, modern city literally starts to run out of water? Well, today we're diving into an absolutely incredible feat of engineering happening in Australia. It's a project that's turning the ocean itself into a lifeline.
I mean, let's just start with that question right there. What do you do when the rain, the one thing that has always sustained your city, just stops falling the way it used to? For the city of Perth in Western Australia, this isn't some far-off what-if scenario. It is a reality they are facing right now, and they are engineering their way out of it.
And this chart, wow, this just lays out the problem perfectly. Take a look. Back in 1975, Perth's dams were collecting about 420 billion liters of water for rainfall. Now, fast forward to today, and that number has absolutely plummeted to less than 70 billion. That is a staggering drop. We're talking over 80%. It's a crystal clear sign that the city's traditional water source is drying up.
And that brings us right to the heart of it, Perth's looming water crisis. See, they're facing what you might call a perfect storm. The city's population is growing fast, right at the same moment its water resources are shrinking.
Okay, so this is where it gets really serious. Right now, about 40% of Perth's water comes from groundwater. But that little note there, that's the real kicker. That supply is about to be slashed by a massive 27% starting in 2028. You pull a chunk that big out of the pie, and suddenly you have an urgent, massive problem on your hands.
And then there's the other side of the equation. By 2050, the city's population is expected to hit 3.5 million people. So think about that. You've got way less water coming in and a whole lot more people who need it. That math just doesn't add up, not without a complete game changer.
So, if the rain stops and the groundwater is running low, where do you turn? Well, for Perth, the answer comes from the one source that's practically endless, the ocean. And this is where we get to the Alkimos Desalination Project.
The easiest way to think about the Alkimos plant is like a giant, super reliable faucet for the entire city. It's one you can turn on whenever you need it, and it doesn't matter if it hasn't rained in months. It's all about creating total water security, something that just works, no matter what the climate is doing. And let me be clear, this is not some idea on a drawing board. Construction is already happening. The plant is scheduled to be fully up and running by the middle of 2028, which you'll notice is exactly when those huge groundwater cuts are set to happen. And look at that last point. This is being built as a 100-plus year asset. This is not a quick fix. It's a foundation for the entire next century.
Okay, so how in the world do you actually take salty ocean water and make it clean enough to drink, especially on this kind of massive scale? Let's get into the mechanics. And don't worry, we're going to keep this really simple.
It all boils down to four main stages. First, you've got the intake. Pipes buried deep under the seabed pull in the seawater. Then it goes through a whole bunch of filters to get all the gunk out. But the real magic happens in step 3, desalination, using a cool process called reverse osmosis. And finally, all that leftover salty water, the brine, is safely piped back out into the ocean.
So what is reverse osmosis? Okay, just imagine the most advanced, high-tech filter you can possibly think of. Water is pushed at incredibly high pressure up against this special membrane. And this membrane is so fine that only pure water molecules can actually squeeze through, leaving all the salt, the minerals, and everything else behind. It's pretty amazing stuff. Now, this whole operation depends on two massive undersea highways. The intake pipe, which brings the water in, runs about 1.6 kilometers out to sea. But check out the outfall pipe. It's way longer, 3 kilometers out. And there's a really smart reason for that. They've engineered it to reach a specific high-energy zone where the ocean currents are strong so that leftover brine mixes back in super quickly and safely. Now, Perth already has some desalination plants. So you might be asking, what makes Alkimos so special? Well, it's being built from the ground up to be smarter, greener, and just plain bigger than anything that's come before. Let's look at the innovations that really set it apart. Let's talk about sheer scale for a second. We'll do a quick-fire round. First up, output. We're talking 50 billion liters of fresh drinking water every single year. To put that in perspective, that's enough to fill 20,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Next up, delivery. How do you get all that fresh water to the city? With a single, massive, underground pipeline that stretches for 33.5 kilometers all the way to the main reservoir. It is the biggest of its kind ever built in the state. And finally, lifespan.
This entire system, from the pipes to the plant, is engineered to last for over 100 years. It's built to serve not just the people of Perth today, but their kids and their grandkids too.
Now, here is a super simple but absolutely brilliant design choice they made. They made that huge delivery pipeline extra wide, 1.6 meters across. See, a wire pipe means less friction, which means it takes a lot less energy to pump all that water. Sure, it costs more upfront to build, but think about it. Over 100 years, the savings in energy and operating costs are just enormous.
So how do you make a project this big and energy-hungry sustainable? Well, that focus on efficiency is everywhere. For starters, they're using special devices that actually recover energy from the high-pressure system, and that alone cuts power use by up to 40%. The plant will also tap into renewable energy from the grid, and get this, by making the giant pipes locally, they've even slashed the carbon footprint of the construction itself. The goal for the whole thing is net zero emissions.
So let's bring this all together. What does a project on this scale really mean? Because it's about so much more than just pipes and pumps. It's about securing the entire future of a city. You know, this quote from Daniel Rossi, one of the project's managers, just sums up the entire philosophy perfectly. Every single decision, from how wide the pipes are to the energy recovery systems, it's all driven by that long-term thinking. Build it to last, and build it to be as efficient as humanly possible for the next century. And really, that's the big takeaway here. The Alkimos plant isn't just another piece of infrastructure. It's a true lifeline. In a world where our climate is getting more and more unpredictable, this whole project is just a powerful example of how human ingenuity and smart, long-term planning can rise up to meet these huge environmental challenges head-on. Which really leaves us with one final, big question to think about. For all the coastal cities around the globe that are starting to face similar problems, is this the future? As those traditional sources of water become less and less reliable, is engineering our water on this kind of massive scale just going to become the new normal?